It seems to be the best of three worlds conjoined into one protocol. Hi, I'm Niels Oever. I'm an infrastructure researcher with the University of Amsterdam. For several years I participated in the running and production and development of networks and network protocols. The QUIC is a new transport protocol that is a follow-up to TCP to transport packets quicker and more reliable over the network. So, innovations in the internetworking stack happen much more at the top of the stack, at the application layer, where you see a lot of new services developed on top of HTTP. But the closer you get to the waist of the hourglass, the closer you get to the IP protocol, the less innovation is happening because everything else is dependent on it. So it's harder to innovate, and therefore it's so interesting that we're seeing a new transport protocol which we haven't seen in quite a while. I don't have the statistics here, but I know that in January last year, I think 7% of the internet traffic was already quick. And I expect that has only increased. There are pretty good metrics on this. And it's still mostly Google that is doing this, but of course a significant amount of the traffic on the internet is Google, right? Technology is never neutral. It orders people's behaviors and the abilities, what they can do and cannot do. Therefore, I think it's important that when we deploy technology that will so massively change the ordering of the internet, we assess its impacts on human rights. And sometimes things are then observed that are expected, but sometimes stuff comes up that were not expected at all. Especially with lower layer protocols, it can be hard to understand how this impacts a user at the end, or how this interacts together with other protocols. And what is really interesting is that we saw that QUIC will actually benefit users who are on relatively bad high latency, high loss connections more than it will benefit people on a really good connection. And normally what you see is the other way around, because developers develop for an audience that is economically quite rich and therefore has the ability to spend. But this actually really improves the experience of people on badly configured mobile connections. Of course, the inclusion of security and privacy are also big gains, because previously the usage of TLS, what many people know as HTTPS, was voluntary and not mandatory. So, but now it's switched on by default. By integrating encryption inside the transport protocol, other people on the network had less access to the privacy sensitive information of the user, meaning now only Google can harvest that information, and thus strengthening their position in the political economy of the internet. I think concentration of power is always troublesome, and what we see is that in classic antitrust law, we try to analyze one sector. But what we see is that Google doesn't solely control one market, but it controls several markets at the same time and causes vertical integration. And that is definitely a risk, not only for freedom and liberties, but also for innovation. And the question is now, how can this be tackled? As you know, the internet is made out of architecture, technology, the market, laws, and public opinion. Well, a solution to a problem can never be found in one part of this. So we need to think of solutions across the board to see how we could build a more distributed internet as it once was intended. But in the development of such a network, we do not only need to think about technical distribution, but also economical distribution. The best way to start to understand how things work is by breaking things. To build something, it takes a long time because you need to design, understand the materiality. But if something works and then you break it, then you can look inside, and then slowly you can learn how to put it together again, so you understand the basic mechanics. And then you can challenge yourself a bit further into breaking other things and trying to create discontinuities, and then try to understand how you could create other realities. But this is also how we lead our lives. This is how we live. So because we have relations with people, we like them, we do not like them, we change. And I think we can question many parts of our lives that way. And I think of us as academics, it's our responsibility to do that, our political responsibility to question power, to question usage, and to think other realities. Oh yeah, a lot.
Yeah, we thought so.
Yeah, no. So I worked a lot on radio, and my story with radio goes quite far back. Is that I always loved the sense that you can simply tune in and then simply hear something that has been around you all the time, but that you do not see. So, and that's what infrastructure does. It's there all the time, and it structures your life, but you don't know how yet. So you need to look at it and then understand it better and understand. And the interesting thing with radio is that it started as this really rudimentary tool, but now Wi-Fi, 5G relies on it, but we can also do super cool technology on a software-defined radio where we can all set our own frequencies and emit our stuff. It's super cool, and I worked a lot on community radio, pirate radio, stuff like that. So the Humboldtian notion of the developed person who is equally developed on all sides, and knows theater and literature and mechanics and physics, that's almost not possible. But what we can have is a relentless curiosity for the things we do and understand, and also study the boring and study the weird and study the alternative, but also study and question the radically mainstream. So those are interesting tensions I like to play with.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Then I think.